What up, guys? How you doing? Welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be reacting to Billie Eilish and 8 climate activists get real about our planet. Let's get into it.
The word eco comes from the Greek meaning home. But how disconnected we are from our home. You know, this is where we live.
The climate anxiety that I feel is really strong. I'm really curious to know because you guys are really going and doing this all the time and spending your time doing it. I want to know, how are you guys just okay?
As I said before, community holds you in your darkest days. And being part of a movement where you are with people who are experiencing exactly the same thing.
People don't know how to help because they're hurting. How can you help others and help the community when you're hurting yourself, when you can't even help yourself? And it's all about healing. Healing the earth heals ourselves. Healing ourselves heals the earth.
See, this is where these people lose me. Once you start talking about this thing like healing yourself, heals the earth, it's like, yo, what does the earth and me have to do with each other? And then that's where the explanations don't come in. And then that's where we start having these problems because we are constantly just asking the question, what does A have to do with B? Because the challenge we have sometimes are economical challenges. Those are the things that people are trying to solve, right? And I do understand the need to preserve the future, but the real question people always often have is like, okay, if we are to do what you're asking us to do, how then do I fix the problems that I face today? Because my family still has to eat. I'm not gonna watch my daughter suffer in the name of protecting the planet.
People just so much of the time can't see things unless they specifically experience them. And so it's just hard when life seems perfect. Well, how bad can it be?
As someone that is gone into the Capitol, been in Congress, that has done a lot of lobbying on protecting our sacred lands from fossil fuel extraction and everything that's going on with the climate crisis in Alaska and in my homelands, knowing what was going on, I couldn't just sit back and let that sit inside of me. I had to be a part of this movement.
Yeah, so I see myself as a scholar activist, navigating academia and also navigating the activist realm, and specifically trying to use my proximity to these institutions of power, like Oxford and the Rhodes Program. I have an organization, nonprofit called Black Girl Environmentalists, that is meant to celebrate the unique contributions that Black women, Black girls, and Black non-binary environmentalists have had in the environmental space.
Once again, ladies, this is all about business. People are running businesses and they're trying to make money. The reason people extract the lands is because they're trying to make money. And as sad as that sounds, man, it's all about the money. The question is not about having powerful institutions on your side, because these powerful institutions, they're also into it for the money. So how do we solve the money problem?
Personal experience, at the age of 9, I started getting really sick from nosebleeds, stomach pains, asthma. And at the age of 19, I was diagnosed with cancer. People Not Bolsos is really a grassroots campaign in my community of South Los Angeles, and it's an intergenerational grassroots campaign. It had youth and elders involved, and it was us demanding that the city listen to us demanding that we have the right to breathe clean air, the right to open our windows in our own homes. It's environmental racism, where these wells are placed. Black and brown, indigenous, low-income people are suffering these impacts at a greater rate than the rest.
Okay, this is the first time that I've ever heard of a thing called environmental racism, but I do understand in the form of segregation how you can up with this conclusion. But I feel like, yeah, people are owed the ability to breathe clean air, and I think conversations need to happen, especially with these big businesses that create these problems. Because a lot of these people who mine, for example, oil or are into anything, they don't live in these areas. And what I think is a regulation, what they should actually do is make these executives, these people who work there, all these shareholders, go live in these areas that their money comes from, so that they feel the pain. Because you cannot live in, for example, I don't know, New York, and people come and mine in LA and you don't feel the pain, you know what I mean? Like, they should make these executives go live in those areas and suffer the consequences of them wanting to make money.
I often think the word climate in and of itself is a very whitewashed perception of what this is. If it were to be accurately named to me, I would call it the result of all systems of oppression crisis. Right. But that doesn't have a ring to it, does it? Like, no one's gonna, use that. And climate is a very...
I felt as though environmentalism sat in this high tower of privilege, whiteness, and wealth. And I said, that's not a movement for me, and the issues that I feel like are so prevalent to my life, racial justice, gender justice. And it's been in actually seeing the environment as an opportunity and the environmental movement as an opportunity that is going to allow us in solving the climate crisis to essentially restructure our world.
We've always been...
See, people talk about this restructure. The question is like, what do you mean? How does it work? Who implements what? Who does what? You know what I mean? Like, a lot of times it's easy to come up with these things in theory, like we have to restructure the world. But what does that look like? Like, how do we implement the changes that you're asking for, right? I'm all for saving the planet, but the real question is, how do we move to this? Who invests in it? Whose money is going to get into it? The problem is everybody bucks, but nobody wants to put their money forward. And when you're young, it's easy to make noise because we have the platforms to do so. But the real change comes once we start affecting people's pockets, you know what I mean? So whose pockets should we affect to create this change that we're asking for?
Here. Our ancestors have always been here doing this work before sustainability was even a word, the way that we know of it today. I'm born and raised in Georgia, which is the heart of the civil rights movement. And there's so much overlap between civil rights and just in social justice activism and environmental activism.
And something that I really try to strive away from is that not looking at these big technocratic solutions, but actually looking within local solutions that are actually rooted in evidence-based hope. Foraging, going around Los Angeles and looking for fresh fruits and vegetables that are growing outside or growing your microgreens in your apartment. Like, these are radical acts to actually share and showcase how food is actually used as a tool to oppress us, or it can nourish us and challenge us to be better.
100%.
So we know all environmental issues are human rights issues. So even when you look at sustainable fashion and the impact that the fashion industry has on our planet, on our climate, you also look at the impact that it has on people. So how it's mostly women of color that are, put in these dangerous work environments, and their, rights are not being fought for on a larger scale.
You can see how fashion affects. There's a lot of sweatshops.
I remember learning about what the meat and the dairy industry was doing to our planet, and that's when I was like, what?
To me, veganism kind of led me to that compassionate lens rather than this absolute lens.
I've been on dates and they've not ended pretty well when it comes to veganism. I am not a vegan, and I do not plan on becoming a vegan for anybody because I really don't believe in it. My ancestors were hunters and gatherers. It's just now somebody does that hunting for us. But I do understand how these industries need to be regulated and how much we have to look at the processes that are in place. That's how we work with these things. These radical changes, I'm not really with them. Like, I'm not with the whole system of saying, hey, let's stop doing this. Let's all just become vegans and that's solve the world's problems. Like, come on.
Of this is about perfectionism. It's more about understanding.
But at least for me, there's always this pressure to be the perfect activist and fit this exact model of what an activist should be. And I love your work as BAT activists. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
We are a group of people who were in the climate justice space who felt so perhaps held back and also weighed down by the expectation of others, to the point where it really hinders people from taking action, because it's like, if you're not good enough, then what's the point?
We don't know everything either. We're doing our part. We know what our bodies have been through. We know what our families and our communities have lived. But at the end of the day, I don't know all of the legal terms. I don't know all of the scientific facts. But that's why we work as a team with the people who do.
Sharing each other's knowledge.
Because together we know everything.
For me as well, climate deniers and climate doomers are on that same wavelength, you know? Because like, what does that do for us? What does that do to generate and inspire us, right? To generate hope and inspire us to build a better future. And I'm like very curious as well about Indigenous wisdom. You work very closely with your family. What have you learned from them about this concept of stubborn optimism?
The realities are so different from people who are learning about the climate crisis in the global north versus people who are experiencing it in the global south. The reason why it's stubborn and not just optimism is because the stubbornness comes from the resilience. The stubbornness comes from the I'm not gonna give up. Think about it. If the people who have suffered are the ones being optimistic,
you don't have the choice.
You cannot have the choice to not also follow that.
Together we know everything, and that's true, man. I think like what Billie Eilish did with a platform right here is something that's valid, that allows us to have these conversations and to ask the right questions. The real question is, to whom are we asking these questions? Are we asking the people? Are we asking the leaders? Whom do we really want to be watching these videos? Is it me? Because I don't think I really affect much, you know. I mean, I can react to it and hopefully get more eyes on it, and we all give our opinions. But the real question is, who are we supposed to be talking to? Because these governments, they know, and they will just say, we put in 46 billion. It's like, yeah, you did, but how's that fixing? What processes and projects are we putting in place to help fix this global climate crisis? Like it is a crisis that we saw. Like I was in school almost 10 years ago learning about these things, and we just starting out in terms of what's going to happen. Who knows, man?
I'm just a mirror. You check your complexion to find.
I just really want to hear your experiences of just like feeling like the only person that cares at all.
I mean, I think everyone has a very important part to play when it comes to the climate crisis. I think of it like we're all a symphony. You know, whether you're playing a small instrument like the flute or a big one like the bassoon, you're instrumental, you're critical to this movement, and you do hear it when an instrument falls out.
Like, at least for me, getting into the climate movement of feeling alone and like that you're the only one that recognizes this, and then with connecting with people my age that are experiencing a similar thing, that bond is really special.
With my future, can't wait to meet her.
And so
that's crazy, man. Like I do believe like when I was, it's crazy. Like when I think about it, like when I was young, the pandemic that was around was HIV and AIDS, and we were fighting for our future. Like, yo, you gotta help protect the future so that people don't die of HIV and AIDS. And now that I'm older, the issue is the planet. It's like, whoa, this is a bigger issue, man. Like this is whew.
concept of radical imagination for me is like super important for everyone to imagine what things could look like.
Ooh, okay. Right. This is that thing. Right. This is that thing I've been trying to say and I haven't been able to say it.
Activism is a practice of imagination because activism is about questioning what is wrong in this space and how can we make it better.
It is the goal of oppressive systems to make us feel hopeless, to take away our joy, to take away,
to steal our imagination.
Absolutely, to steal our imagination. And imagination is such a powerful tool. It's not something that's childish or irrelevant. It is actually one of our greatest solutions to imagining a more sustainable and equitable future.
But I don't think, like people love to use these statements in oppressive system. Like a lot of people, if you're in America, I don't really feel like, okay, fine, to each their own. But some of you are not really oppressed until you've experienced what other people are experiencing in different parts of the world. I think the system that America has is it's a solution-based system. If you bring up a solution, solutions will be made. But the challenges that I feel America has is a lot of people don't have the capabilities to bring up solutions, but what they can do is speak. And then in speaking, you create solutions, right? So for you guys, it's all about making noise. And then if we make enough noise, that allows the people with the solutions to come up. Because right now, if we were to ask them, what do you need us to do? Give us a plan, like of what everybody needs to do. A lot of them will be like, no, we don't really have a plan. You got to come up with these theoretical terms. It's never really practical. So the issue is make it practical. And in most cases, make it economical. That's the key goal to change. If you want to bring change around, especially in the capitalistic system that you have in America, then the main thing, my friends, is you have to figure out a way in which your people can make money out of climate change.
I'm in love with my future. Can't wait to meet her. And I'm in love with anybody.
But it's cute. It's beautiful. That was beautiful. Yeah, as somebody who's not really like, I wouldn't say that I'm anti climate or like I don't care about it. I'm someone who has more problems, like just like everybody else in this world, who be like, hey, we have different problems that need to be solved before I can think about what's happening with the ecosystem. My family has to eat, my people have to do this, and then there's a lot of problems that a lot of people are facing to whereby these seem like privileged problems that young kids have the opportunity to speak up and be listened to. But the key problem is, whom are you talking to? To whom? Because if these governments are constantly engaged in wars, that's where their mindset is. And then businesses are focused on staying afloat and making more money, and it's good that they're making noise. I feel like it gets the attention that it deserves. But I think the time is now to move and start finding solutions, economical solutions, political solutions that help create the change that's needed. Because simply just saying, hey, we gotta make change, we need change, we want change, who do you want to come up with those solutions? But also save the planet, save the future. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be around for another 60 years. I don't want to leave on top of some ocean, man. Come on. Like, it's it's just terrible what's happening. Anyway, let me know in the comment section what you think about the climate activists. Do you think these guys have a big purpose? Do you think that their work is getting noticed? Have we seen changes? Am I tripping or what? With that said, I'll definitely be seeing you guys in the next one.